Hi there and welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike and I'm excited to share another Divi tutorial with you today. My goal here is to make learning Divi as straightforward as possible. No doubt if you are in the Divi community, you have very likely heard this topic of the Flexbox. It's been touted for quite a while now. Elegant Themes has been speaking about it for probably about a year that they're going to release it, and it finally has been released. So if you're using Divi 5 and you update your theme, you should have access to the Flexbox functionality. Now, that is all good and well, and I'm sure that most developers are super happy and very excited about using this. But what about the rest of us? You know, the ones that aren't that clued up on CSS, don't really know what Flexbox really is. How can you actually use that in your site? Well, hopefully I'll be able to give you a bird's eye view overview of what Flexbox is today. So it just gives you a little bit of an understanding as to how you can possibly use this in your site. That is the goal that we're hoping to achieve here. And so if there's anything that you feel like you need more clarity on or anything like that, just let me know in the comments below. And if need be, I can make another video to expand upon any other things that we chat about today. But other than that, let's just hit that like button and jump right in. Okay, so what is Flexbox really? Flexbox is basically just a layout module. It works with CSS and allows you to basically easily arrange items in a single row or a column. And why it works so well is that it excels at distributing space among items and handling alignment. Now, there are a couple of concepts that you need to understand when working with Flexbox. The one is that you use is a flex container. That is basically the parent element that you apply. And if you were writing this out in CSS, it would be like display flex, all right? But we're not going to have to write that anymore because thankfully Divi has integrated it into our actual page builder. And then the second one is the flex items. So the flex items will be whatever is inside the container. And in our case, that'll be our modules. So our container will be our row and our column inside the row, and our items will be the modules that are inside that column. Okay, so there's another thing I also just want to show you is that if I hit the add new module here, you'll see that the add new module facility has changed. It might look similar, but you can see that there's different options now where we have the offset columns, we have the multi-row grids, we have multi-column grids that we can make use of. All right, I just want to add in a standard one for now. And I want to add in an image. I want to explain another concept to you today. And so if I come in here and I just want to select this one over here. All right, so over here you can see we have two concepts. One is a row and the other one is a column. All right, now what I want to draw your attention to is this over here, this main axis. Axis, let's just say axis, and this cross axis. Now, the thing that you need to see how it works here is that on a row, the main axis is the horizontal line over here, while on the row, the cross axis is the vertical line over there. But when we switch it over to the column, the main axis now becomes the vertical line, and the cross axis becomes the horizontal line. Now, what we also need to understand is flex direction. So over here, where it's going from the top to the bottom, and over here, it's going from the left to the right. All right. So when it's going from the left to the right like this, we're going to be using main axis on a row. Okay. Cross axis is the one that is perpendicular to the main axis. If that seems confusing, not to worry, we are going to go and have a look at how this works. Okay, so I'm just going to add in another section, and in here I'm just going to add that, and then I'm just going to add in two text modules for now. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to jump into the row settings over here, and then we want to look to the right over here, and it says column. We want to click on those settings. Then jump into the design. and layout. And once you click on layout, you can see there are our flex options. Okay, so anything that we do and work on in here, which is in the column, is going to apply to our modules inside this column. So if I take this horizontal gap and I bring this horizontal gap down to 10, okay, nothing much happens. But if I bring the vertical gap down to 10, you see, it actually closes the space between the two elements over here, or two modules. Okay, if I make this bigger, let's say 50, then it increases that space. So if now we leave that at 10, but I want to change this layout direction, remember, flex direction. Okay, I want to change this to a row, and I'm going to change it to this kind of row, flex direction from left to right. It's going to change, and it's going to put the content next to each other in one single row. How cool is that? Now the next thing I want to show you is, let's go back to the column and let's give these backgrounds so we can distinguish them from each other. So let's just say green and get a nice little light green there. And let's jump into this one. Background. Let's select this one, make it a bluish purplish kind of color. Okay, there, those look decent enough. All right, let's go back into the row. Let's go to our column and let's go to our Flexbox settings. Now we have this over here, row and row reverse. So when we clicked on it row earlier, you saw that it had the green one on the left and the purple one on the right. Now if we click on row reverse, it switches it. So now it is basically, instead of running left to right, it's running from right to left. But because it's running right to left, it's still applying this same one over here, which is the main axis at the bottom and the cross axis at the top. Now, why do I keep emphasizing about main axis and cross axis? Well, those come into play when you start working with the justify content and the align items. So whenever you are working with justify content, you are going to be looking and working with the main axis. So currently we are running as a row. So because we're a row, our main axis is this horizontal line over here, and therefore the justify content is going to work on our horizontal line over here. So if we click any of these, they're not really going to do much difference here because of the items that we have, where they're stretching the full amount. But let's go and to our actual items, and let's give this some spacing, and left and right, let's say maybe 60 left, and right, let's also call it 60. Okay, let's go back to our row, column, design, and we go to layout. And so here we have start. Now what if we hit center now? Oh, still nothing happens. All right. But if we're working with other elements, then you'll probably see a difference. Okay, so that is the ones that we're working with there. Now I want to show you if I add in, say, an icon over here. All right, let's make this something else. Let's do an up, one over there. Okay, so we go back now to our column, design, layout. Now remember I said that when you're working with this one over here, your main axis, that is where you do your justify content, but your cross axis would be your align items. So you can see align items at the moment is set to center. What happens if I hit start? What do you think will happen? Considering if you're working with a cross axis. Yep, I'm sure you guessed it. It's going to go to the top. So alternatively, if I now hit end, what should happen there? Yes, you're correct again. Goes down to the bottom. Right, stretch would be that it actually stretches. You can see there it's stretching the entire height of the row. Okay. So you can see how easily that can be achieved using that. Now, if I go back to column over here. Now remember, if you're selecting column, your main axis and your cross axis is going to be different, right? It's flipping the other way around. So now justify content is now going to be the main axis over here, the vertical content, while the align items is going to be the cross axis. So now if I click on that same item and I say I wanted to align items from the start, it's going to move to the left. If I say right up to the end, it's going to go to the right. And if I say stretch, it's going to go the entire one over there. Okay, are you starting to get a bit of a feel for this and seeing how it works? I hope so, because I know this can be quite confusing at the beginning. But as you play with it more and more and more, you might actually pick it up quite quickly. Okay, now we have these ones over here. Start, center, end, space between, space around, space evenly. What are these actually all about? Well, let's have another look. Let's add in another one over here and add in another image. Select this one and upload that. So you can see here we have flex start. Let's go back to the... Okay, so we have flex start. You can see flex start, it always starts from the left and it'll run to the right. If you go to flex end, it's going to start from the right and it's going to go to the left. Okay. By start, I'm not meaning that it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, but instead what it's going to read from the right hand side and it's going to be stuck to the right hand side. All right. All your spacing and your positioning. Then center, this one over here is going to center it. So you're going to have the equal space on the left and the right. Then you have your space between. So space between, you can see it connects on the edge, and then each item has an equal space between them, right? Then you have your space around. So space around is the same as space between, but it also gives us the space on the edge. So you get that like little padding. It's not right on the edge, but it gives you that little bit of padding. And then they have one more, which is called space evenly. And space evenly is basically that all these spaces, even the one on the end, are all even. Okay, so that's the differences that you get from each one of these. So keep that in mind as you start building out your different designs. Then the align items we showed is the start, center, and end as well. Okay, so that one we need to come into this one if we want to see how it works. Like earlier, we have to click end, center, start. Okay. And then layout wrapping is basically, if you click on it over here, you get the different types of wrapping that you can do. And what wrapping basically is like Word. If you've ever used Word, any kind of Word program, when you are typing the content and it reaches the end of the line, what happens is once it reaches the end of the line, it'll then wrap and go to the next line for you. So it'll continue on there so that it clearly, you always have space and it'll always be there. Okay, so it'll be good for like multiple lines of flex items. You have the wrap reverse, just like what you have over here, row reverse, row. Okay, the same. And then it works the same kind of things over there. All right. So that is basically a very high level, quick overview on Flexbox and how the options that you have in Divi 5 can help you to achieve these kind of layouts. All right. I hope this is helpful to you, but always remember that when you work with it, you have the two items that you need to work with. One is going to be your flex container. Your flex container in this case is going to be that when you come into your row, you go into your column, right? And then you work with and you set it from your design over here. Once you start working with the design on the flex container, which is this one, then this will affect your flex items, and your flex items are the ones that are inside there, meaning in this case, our modules. Very important thing to remember. Otherwise, when you're making changes on your Flexbox in other places, it might not reflect when you're making those changes. Okay, so as I said, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope it gives you just a bit of a slight clearer idea as to how you can actually go and use Flexbox in your designs. And if you do, let us know how you go with that. If you have any more questions, just let me know down below, and I'll hopefully try and address them as quick as possible. Otherwise, I'm considering creating a bit more of tutorials where I actually make use of the Flexbox in practical examples. I'm considering doing that in the coming weeks. If that's something you're interested in, also just let me know in the comments below. If I get enough comments there, then I'll definitely make that a priority. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can continue to join me on this journey of learning Divi. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video.